Hello, and welcome back to Crime, Mystery Mayhem. Now, before I get started today, I want to say thank you to all my returning subscribers. Thank you for the comments and the likes and the love. Now, I just want to give a disclaimer on this story because, yes, like all my other true crime stories, it's about murder, mystery, and mayhem. So, with that being said, today's true story is about Curtis and Catherine and Curtis Jr. Jones, the 14 and 13-year-old kids who basically plotted murder, but not because they were sadistic or not because, they just felt some type of sick, twisted, you know, feeling to want to go out and do these things. But unfortunately, these babies went through hell. And because no one listened, the people who were the closest to them, their family members, their blood, the reason why come they walk the earth today, because one thing that we all know, children don't ask to be here. Just like once upon a time ago, we were children. We didn't ask to be here. Some of us are planned and some of us are not. But either way, you know, it's important that we all have a positive life, because without it, yes, true enough, we're going to go through some negatives. We're going to go through downs to go with our ups, true enough. But band-aids and paper cuts are enough. Like, why do we have to go through the bullet holes and the stab wounds of life? So yes, this story is especially sad for me because it's involving children in the physical, mental, and just spiritual abuse of two beautiful children who only wanted a chance, who should have never experienced this type of heartache. Catherine was born first. She was born in 1985. And shortly after, I'll say about a year and some change later, her brother, Curtis Jr., was born. But these babies weren't brought into this world through like a happy beginning. Their dad, their own father, used to beat their mom so bad to the point where she gave birth to her children prematurely. And he had an alcohol problem, I'm guessing because of whatever type of torture he went through as a child, he let it carry on to his kid's life. Instead of thinking about breaking traditional curses, he decided to abuse the alcohol and do exactly what his father or his mother or his caregivers done to him, causing, hurt and pain on his children. Now, sources say that this father never physically abused his own children, but still, while the mom was pregnant with these babies, he still did her dirty. He put his hands on her, beat her so bad to the point where her placenta separated. So, yes, it's abuse to your child. Your child is forced to come out at an earlier time than what they're due. The bun isn't even done baking in the oven yet. Like, this is your love, your pride and joy. And not just that, even if you have some type of issues with the mom, you don't have to put your hands on her. Someone has got to know when to say enough is enough. So eventually, the mom, she decides, I'm going to up and leave. I can't do with this. But she's also financially unstable. She doesn't have a home. She doesn't have a car or a job or anything. But the dad, he has everything, I'm guessing. Or if they did split the bills, the mom, she just up and she just split. But it's like, even if this man hasn't physically put his hands on your children, like that, there's still some mental issues going on there. A lot of mental abuse and verbal abuse that these children have to overhear from their father, and because you decided to stay. So the fact that the mom just decides to split, that right there, it angers me because how dare you leave those precious innocent babies with this abusive father? And come on now, think of all the stuff that he used to do to you. Which obviously it wasn't that important. So she decided to leave. She hugged and kissed her babies goodbye because I guess in her mind she thought she was doing the right thing financially. So she left, and then as some time went by, I guess the kids were doing okay with their father. The kids has never called the police or told a teacher that their dad was doing anything evil and wicked towards them. So everything was okay until a male family relative, moved in with them. Now, by this time, Catherine is about 12 years old, and Curtis Jr., he's about 11, 12. They're 1 year behind each other, but they're preteens. And then, so automatically, because Curtis Jr. has to share his bedroom with this family relative starts pedophiling with them, groping them in his sleep and doing all these evil, wicked, twisted, making him do things that he shouldn't even know anything about. Like, this is a little boy. All he should be thinking about is basketball or, whatever it is that kids there's so many things for kids to do. you know so but other than that, that's not. And the messed up part about it is this dad who allowed this family member to move in with him and his children, he didn't even know that this man had been convicted of like domestic violence, and not just that, pedophiling his ex-girlfriend's daughter. So this man's had already had a good enough notch under his belt, to the point where he was an experienced pedophile and an experienced domestic violence person. Just out here just causing havoc, all no matter where he go, just turning everything to toxic. And this dad didn't even know that this man was living under his home. But at the same time, his children started telling him, Dad, this is what's going on. This is what's going on. And then it was like the dad kind of like brushed it off. Like the kids would even let their mom know. And then the mom's like, well, yeah, I've heard like suspicious things about him, but she didn't do anything to remove her children from that home. And then not just that, when the dad's girlfriend would come over, they would try to give her warning signs, and they literally let these people know that this man is coming in on a shower on us. He's masturbating while I'm right there, and these kids are afraid, and that they're afraid. So it's like eventually Catherine, she's the big sister, so she becomes this mastermind to think about, you know what, we're just going to take everybody out because everyone deserves to die. We've been telling everyone, and we're kids. Our job is we supposed to come to these people. We're supposed to trust these people. Our lives are in these people's hands. We're defenseless. But the same people who's supposed to protect us are our victimizers. The people who freaking, do us wrong. And it's sad that they have literally no one to go to. They're so afraid to the point where they won't even tell a teacher because they're like, don't no one in our household believe us, so why would a teacher or a principal or anyone else believe us? But they were telling like kids in their neighborhood that they would play with from time to time, and those kids will tell their parents, but still no one did anything. CPS never came over to do an investigation. But when Catherine, when she did decide to say something to her dad, he was just like, I'm going to go ahead and take her in. And then, yeah, they saw it was some physical evidence that something had happened to that little girl. And if the dad didn't do it, and she's already not, being, loose out there, she's not coming in at all type of hours of being rebellious, she's in the house. The only other explanation for what's going on with this little girl is that additional family member that's there. And yeah, And not just that, not only was he molesting the girl, he was molesting the boy. He shared rooms with him. So I can only imagine that he probably got the bulk of it and forced to take to be quiet because no one wants to hear that. Like, oh my goodness. The treachery of it all. So yeah. One night, Catherine decides to take her little brother off to the side, off to the quiet, and it's like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna kill everyone who we told, and they didn't believe us. They came up with a plot to kill their dad, the family member, and the dad's girlfriend, and even their mom too. If the mom popped up, but the mom, yeah, like when I watched the news clip on this, and then you hear the police officer say, "Well, there's lots of kids who were abused, and they didn't turn out to be murderers." That's true, but okay, say for instance, if you've been held captive in the woods for years by people who don't know better, and they didn't teach you your ABCs or your numbers, or they only taught you one way of life, are you guilty of whatever it is that they've been teaching you your whole entire life, that abuse is okay and you're not supposed to say nothing, and eventually you just supposed to just let stuff like this slide? I mean, I'm not excusing it, but at the same time, that's why you don't do anything wrong to hurt anyone. So that way you don't get repercussions, like a person being so angry and upset to the point where you feel like you'd impress the button, something that they're working on, something that they have no control over, and you want to agitate the situation. No, it's not right for retaliation. No, but it's not okay to be a bully either. So all these grown people here living with these kids and no one is willing to say anything. The dad's girlfriend, Nicole, she moves in and the kids try to tell her. So there's other people who's not her flesh and blood who know something. Not just that seeing something, not saying anything, but verbally being told something out of a kid's mouth, like this person is hurting me, and no one is doing nothing. The dad isn't even doing anything. Like the dad is literally taking the family member side. So the kids snapped. Like I said, they huddled together, and then Catherine decided to come up with her plan. And of course, the brother was okay with it because he's like, I'm tired of him abusing me too. It's not right. So if no one's going to do anything, we have to protect ourselves. So the kids, they waited till all the grown-ups was out of the house. They got their plan together and said one by one, whoever come home, when they walked through that door, we was going to kill them. So they got their father's gun, they got some knives and whatever it is else that they wanted to, kill them with. And then guess who came home? Nicole came home. Now, this isn't her dad. This isn't their uncle or their family relative who came to stay and did all that child molestation stuff. This was the dad's girlfriend. She comes home and she decides to take out a puzzle. She pulls out the puzzle. She lets the kids know she home and everything, but she's not aware of what's in store for her. So in walks Catherine. She just like, hey, Nicole. As soon as Nicole turned around, she shot her in the stomach. So I'm guessing because the gun was so big, as soon as Catherine shot the gun, it backfired kind of, and it bounced out of her hand by being so heavy. And once it hit the floor, and I guess Nicole is like screaming or asking what's going on, or trying to fight or something. So immediately, Curtis Jr., he grabs the gun. He just went to shooting at everything around Nicole. And with the shooting her, he hit her at least 3 more times. So altogether, Nicole was shot 4 times, and each and every last one of those shots were fatal. So, little boy, he went to shooting. Basically, all the bullets was out, and they knew that somebody next door was gonna hear it. You know. And I bet that if those kids would have had every last one of those grown-ups who was on their list all in the house at once, they probably would have been able to successfully kill or injure everyone, all the adults in that house. But sadly, Nicole was the only one who came home that evening. And yes, she was a witness to a lot of the evil stuff that happened. But like I said, murder, no matter, it's still a touch and go situation because this woman had family. And then it's like, but at the same time, you are an adult and these kids try to tell you something, and it's like you're a willing participant in the child abuse that's going on, because even though you're not physically doing it, and you're not a registered sex offender like this family member, it's almost like you are, but without it being on paper because you're not saying anything. So I know in her mind, when she got shot in the stomach, she's so sick and twisted to the point where she don't even know probably why these kids even are gonna kill her. But these kids know. It's, lady, you abused us too without actually physically putting your hands on us. You stand by, you stood by and you watch it happen. And then, so after that, the kids, they ran next door to the neighbor's house and they let the neighbor know, I accidentally shot the gun and it hit Nicole in the stomach. And then after that, they ran off the porch and then they ran behind their home, like kind of in the woods, because they kind of stayed like in the wooded area. And then they just hid in the woods. And then eventually the police were called. When the police were called, they went in the home and they found Nicole there. She was already deceased. They went and talked to the neighbors to find out if they knew where Catherine and Curtis Jr. was at. And, after that, the family member and the dad came home. What's so messed up about the situation is like the real victims are on the run for their lives. And the people, the child abusers are free. Man. Yeah, so eventually as time go by, the police are strolling through the woods and eventually they do apprehend Catherine and Curtis Jr. And the looks on these kids' faces, like some people may call it evil, some people may call it nonchalant or they may even try to say that these kids have a unsympathetic look about themselves. But at the same time, think about it, they're kids. They were abused and not just that they witnessed abuse ever since they were little babies. So they're a product of their environment. So what type of facial expression are you expecting them to have? I mean, I would probably be kind of satisfied, if not necessarily saying that an abuser of mine were murdered or anything, but to see them face some type of consequences where it's like, okay, this is what happens when you do stuff like this. These are the repercussions. You know, a lot of the times I always leave things in God's hands because life goes so much better when you let God have the will. When you just let God take the will and you just let Him take over, it feels so much better. But He's not going to do everything for you. We all know that bullying is not okay or abuse is okay. It hurts because it hurts when someone does it to you. We have to learn how to break traditional curses and learn how not to be a product of our environment. You know, each generation is supposed to be born better and smarter and greater, but because of us, it's our job to elevate them and be that footstool to get them to the next level. How are we going to seek change if there's no change involved? So, yes, these babies, they go to court. And what's so sad about those situations is when they go to court, they don't even tell the judge or the police officers the reason behind for why they wanted to plot to kill everyone in the house. It's like they took a vow of silence, and I guess they must have thought that was going to help them, or maybe I don't know what it was, or maybe they was afraid still, but they didn't mention anything about it, even though we already know that they've been to the doctor and the doctor has reassured that something has happened. And this father, even though he knew something was going on, I know behind his mind he was probably thinking, oh, she probably went out there and did something on her own. But wow, why? Wow, and why? When your baby girl told you out of her mouth, were you in on it? Because you were too fluently to let it pass, you know? So, yeah. But these babies, they both end up getting 18 years in prison with a life sentence probation. So even if when they get out when they're 18, in 18 years, they'll still be pretty young and everything, but it's still a big chunk of their lives taken away from them because they were abused and didn't know how to help. I mean, they had a school teacher who suspected that Catherine was subject to like some type of sexual abuse. I'm guessing because maybe she was acting out in class, or maybe she said something to someone and then someone told a teacher. So you never know what it is with this, because these kids, they were so bottled up, and a lot of times about their abuse they didn't say anything except for when things just got really bad. But long story short, and root of it all is they had a lot of adults in their lives, and then where was the mom? Where was the mom? It is, you gave birth to them. So it's like automatically you had to know that you leaving your children with this, the person, the reason why come you're running away now, and you're going to leave your kids there. It's like, how could you? It's like, I'm mad at everyone in this story except for the kids. Yes, I'm sorry that they did what they did. And it's like, but it's like, how can you be upset with them? No, it's not okay. It's not right. But how can you be upset with them? It just makes me love them even more, because especially when you find out after they get out of prison, the brother Curtis Jr., he becomes a minister. And that is what he's still doing today after 18 years. And not just that, the daughter, the other daughter, Catherine, she's a year older. Like she got out like probably like 2 or 3 months before her brother, but she's doing just as good. Like she's speaking in colleges and she's in school herself. She's just got this ball of energy about them. And it's so important because it's like, that when these were like little bitty babies, when they were getting sentenced for doing what they did, so many people thought that they was probably going to lead a life full of crime, but it's like they grew up and they proved to the world differently. Like if we would have had a choice to be able to prove to, pick our own parents, this is the type of life we would have had. They broke traditional curses all by themselves. No matter what they had to overcome, they did that time in prison and they educated themselves. They grew. This lets you know that this is exactly who these kids were before they committed that crime. They were loving, caring individuals. But because they didn't have the type of love around them that they needed to elevate them into the people who they are today, they had to go through that struggle. And to me, it sounded like the prisons that they were in were the safest places for them to be in, to get them to where they were today. Amen. But thank you for tuning in today's show. And until next time, join me on Crime, Mystery Mayhem. Thank you. Like and subscribe, and have a blessed day.